All right, so in this lesson, we're going to be using everything that we understand about integer operations. So all four operations using positive and negative integers. In the first word problem, it says Lake Bridgeport has a maximum depth of negative 85 feet. And Cascade Cavern reaches a depth of negative 132 feet. If a diver descends, and remember the word descend means go down, goes down to the maximum depth of Bridgeport 4 times. And so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to underline, well, I'm going to circle that, put a little box around that. 4 times, and a hiker descends the deepest part of Cascade Cavern 3 times. How much farther did the hiker travel than the diver? Okay, so we have to know that when we solve these problems, it is not always obvious the very first moment that we read it what the answer is. So we have to be able to draw pictures. So we know that there is one that's going to be larger and one that's going to be smaller. Okay, and it says how much farther did the hiker travel than the diver, so that means the hiker did more. So here's the hiker, I'm going to put an H up here, and here's the diver down here. So that's kind of algebra because we're using letters to represent two different things. So it's unknown right now how much each one of them was, but we want to figure out this space that's right here. All right, so ultimately this will be a subtraction problem. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is write a multiplication sentence to represent the total depth that the diver dives. So if it's negative 85 feet and he went down 4 times, circle that, then that's the multiplication problem. And it says represent your multiplication sentence on the number line below. So here's the diver. So we have minus 85, minus 85, minus 85, minus 85. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and actually solve. Write a multiplication sentence to, okay. Now, so we're going to go ahead and solve for that. So 85 times 4. Is my answer going to be positive or negative? Go ahead and answer that for me. All right, we know that anything that, if the two signs are different, the answer is going to be negative. So now I'm going to go ahead and solve this equation. 4 times 5 is 20, so I put the 0 down, carry the 2. 4 times 8 is 32, plus 2 is 34. So this is actually, the diver went down negative 340 feet. So now we want to do a multiplication sentence for the hiker. So the hiker was 132, negative 132 feet that they walked down the canyon, and they did that 3 times. So then we have negative 132, and then negative 132. I don't know why this does this sometimes. We're going to pretend that's negative 132. Okay, this one's written better. Okay, so 3 groups of negative 132. Okay, so let's go ahead and solve for that. So is that answer going to be positive or negative? Okay. If you have a negative times a positive, what's the answer going to be? Go ahead and answer that for me. Very good. This one's also going to be negative. So 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 1 is 3. So the hiker actually traveled to the depths of 396 feet. So if we were to find the difference for that, we can subtract their absolute values. So I'm going to go ahead and do 396, and I'm going to subtract 340. Wow. This pen goes crazy sometimes, but you know what? I'm not going to get upset about it. We're just going to power through. 6 minus 0 is 6. 9 minus 4 is 5. So the answer is going to end up being, how much farther did the hiker travel than the diver? They went a further negative 56 feet. Okay, that was the difference, negative 56 feet. And pretend that looks like a 6. Thank you. Okay, this video is going to practice a few more things together involving integer operations, and I have to... Okay, the key to solving these problems, and we're going to practice some of the computation, is just to be patient and think about the rules. So if we have negative 4 times positive 3, that answer will be negative because a negative times a positive is a negative. Now we have to remember, what is the rule for adding integers? If you have a negative and a positive, sometimes the answer is negative and sometimes the answer is positive. So if you have negative 12 and you add positive 8, will that answer be negative or positive? Answer that for me, please. Well, the answer is going to be negative. And the reason why it's negative is that negative 12 has a greater absolute value. So if you add a positive 8, you're not going to get all the way back to 0 and to the other side. You're going to end up stopping at negative 4. Okay, so for number 2, we have negative 25 divided by 5. So if you have a negative and you divide it by a positive, will the answer be negative or positive? Go ahead and write down what you think the answer is. Okay, negative divided by positive is a negative, so we're going to write negative 5 as our answer. Now, when I subtract integers, I'm supposed to, in my mind, be able to write an addition sentence to use the additive inverse. So I want you to go ahead and write a addition sentence that matches the answer for this subtraction sentence, and then go ahead and answer the question. Go ahead and do that for me now. All right, so if I do the additive inverse, it's going to be negative 5 plus a negative 3, because negative 3 is the opposite of positive 3. So negative 5 plus negative 3, the answer is negative 8. Okay, so if we have a number 3, we have negative 5 times negative 4 times negative 2. We have 3 different factors here. We can do this in any order that we want. I'm going to go ahead and do it like in the order from left to right. What is negative 4 times negative 5? Will the answer be positive or negative? Go ahead and answer that for me. All right, the answer is going to be positive 20. Now, once we have the positive 20, we have to multiply that by a negative 2. So what is that answer going to be, positive or negative? Go ahead and write down your answer. A positive times a negative is going to be a negative, so that is going to end up being negative 40. Now we have a subtraction sentence, and remember, like I said before, we need to use additive inverse in order to solve this, so they actually have a step right here where they do the additive inverse. Negative 40 plus, what is the opposite of negative 8? Go ahead and write that down for me. The opposite is positive 8. Okay, so now our equation is negative 40 plus positive 8. So is my answer going to be negative or positive? Which one of these has the greatest absolute value? Go ahead and solve that. The answer will be negative. And 40 minus 8 is actually 32. So the answer will be negative 32. So you kind of get the gist, very patiently going from step to step.